Oh, I see, yeah. I printed the lousy one version of it.
Yeah.
I went out looked at the building today.
Were we supposed to pick up this packet, or did you print that?
I just printed it out. Yeah. Sure. I have to recuse myself on this one anyway, so you can have it if you want. It's all yours.
Are we waiting on? I confirmed with.
have to have her.
Okay, I confirmed with her that she'd be here. Oh, okay. Okay. Eliza's supposed to be here. I can just see her.
Oh, wow.
Okay. We have a minute to 5:30. Oh, yes. Do we do that before the meeting begins, or is it part of the meeting? Okay, let's go ahead and start that.
At this point, can I get everybody to please stand up and raise your right hand?
We're having you do your oath of office before the meeting starts.
I already took my oath of office. Sorry.
We can go through
Right here.
Okay, so I'm gonna state the whole oath, and then you guys can say I do after the fact. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
I do.
Alrighty.
You are all officially sworn in.
Quickest it's ever been done.
That was smart. For all of us.
Oh, that one's yours. Thank you.
Sign and date bottom.
I already sworn last time.
And then pass the oath back to me. The binder is yours and it's informational. Just information regarding the City of Stockton boards and commissions. Light reading on parliamentary rules, on how meetings are conducted. If you have any questions or comments regarding the materials that were provided, please don't hesitate to call the office of the city clerk.
Y'all ready? You want them to sign it, give it to you right now, or
I can take it.
afterwards? Okay. Just for the sake of getting things going, we're going to start. Given that there is not an official chairperson yet, I'll call the meeting to order.
Oh, okay.
5:32. First item on the agenda, roll call, please.
Member Corradi,
Present.
Member Groom,
Present.
Member Holzer,
Present?
Member Jaurigue,
Present.
Member Merlo,
Present.
Member Nichols,
Present.
Member Swanson,
Here.
Member Vieux,
Here.
Member Vigil.
Here.
Moving on to consent calendar, there's being none, we'll move on to the next item. Item 3, informational items. 3.1, Cultural Heritage Board duties. Before you is a copy of Chapter 16.220, Cultural Resources. That is for your reference. You can be familiar with the duties and responsibilities of the board as stipulated in the Stockton Municipal Code. It's a discussion item. There's no motion for this. I just wanted to, make you aware of this. As you're aware, the terms of the office are 4 years. Some of you are staggered, I believe, based on the council's appointments. Let's see here. The meetings, that's another item. We're going to set the meeting schedule. And then just, if we go to subsection C, powers and duties, this is kind of a key element of what the board will be doing. So the powers and duties are recommend for approval to the commission and the council areas, sites, and structures, including single sites or structures, portions of structures, groups of structures, man-made or natural landscape elements, works of art, or integrated combinations having a special character or special aesthetic, architectural, or historical interest as a landmark in compliance with 16.220.070, a historic site in compliance with 16.220.090, or a historic preservation district in compliance with 16.220.080. Another responsibility of the board is reviewing and recommending to the Community Development Director applications for certificates of appropriateness. There is one on the agenda today for your perusal and review. The director is actually present this evening and will say a few things.
Good evening, everybody. David Kwong. I'm the Community Development Director. And let me first also introduce you to Stephanie Licasio, who's our Assistant Director, and Kevin Cullen, who's our Planning Manager. Stephanie is going to be the secretary to this board, and ongoing from a staff standpoint, coordinating all the issues, projects, and applications before you. I will not be here on purpose, not that it's any kind of disrespect, but more so from the standpoint that you are actually, in some cases, going to be recommending a certificate of appropriateness to me, and I should not be as a approval body, if you will, before you at the same time as well. So there will be times when you're going to want some orientation on some of the codes that Stephanie's talking about right now, and that's perfectly fine. So this is the new and reconstituted CHB. So we're here to kind of provide you any kind of answers, responses that you need in regard to projects and applications and city codes. So what I'm going to do is I want to make sure you also know that as we personally have it, we also will have city attorney's office, and obviously the city clerk's office is here to help us along the way as well. So from that standpoint, we're hoping to be able to staff this as we can, and we'll bring you projects as we can, and as applications come in. And with that, I would like to hand that back to Stephanie.
Thank you. Continuing on with just a brief review of the code. We were at certificates of appropriateness. The next item is the structures of merit. You can designate structures of merit in compliance with the code. You can also consult with other groups with ideas and recommendations, including the appointment of a historical district advisory committee. You can view project sites that you believe are worthy of preservation. You can disseminate information to the public regarding those areas and sites. You can consider and implement methods consistent with achieving and encouraging architectural and historical preservation. And these are more like community civic-based activities. These are things that if you see that you deem needs to be reviewed or discussed, or you want to nominate that for an award, which is another item that we're going to talk about, that's the kind of thing that you would be doing, kind of like getting the community involved and kind of reaching out to your constituents and stakeholders in the historic and cultural fields. Also, you'll be reviewing landmarks, historic sites, and preservation districts to make sure that they are adhering to the intent of said items, and also the establishment of the advisory committee for any preservation district is deemed appropriate. So that's just a very basic Cliff's Notes version of the code. I am happy to answer any specific questions. If you want to think about it a little bit and email me or call me, I'm happy to set up a meeting with you if you want to talk about it, or if you have any ideas. That's what I'm here for. Any questions?
What's your phone number so we could write it down? Or
Yes. So my direct line is 937-8544. And I have business cards. I'm pretty sure I can pass those out.
Thank you.
Yes, I do. I will pass them out. Moving on. The next discussion item, 3.2, the Glenn Allen and Captain Weber Awards. The application forms for both awards are before you. This is a reference in case you see something that you would like to nominate, or if you have any colleagues that maybe would like to nominate a project, these are both available on our website. The Glen Allen Award recognizes individuals, organizations, or businesses who have done extraordinary work in the field of historic preservation. So this is an award for a person. The Charles Weber Award is named after Captain Weber, the founder of Stockton, and that award recognizes those who have authored or edited in the subject area or volunteer work in the community's past. So that's more Stockton-centric, if they've done any kind of more academia kind of related, whereas the other one is more work in the field. So just wanted to let you have those applications. You can print as many as you want off the website. There's a brief description there. There's also links to past award recipients if you're interested, and I can provide that if that's something the board so desires. Yes?
Just to let you know, first of all, it's bugged me for years and years. Under the Glen Allen Award, there's a spelling error that no one seems to be able to correct.
Oh, it's misspelled?
Yeah, it says name of individual and organization, and there's a T
Oh,
missing
gosh.
from it there.
You know, I just printed this straight off the website.
If you could correct it, that
Sure
would
thing.
be wonderful. The other thing, just to let you know, is that, of course, the board hasn't met much in the last couple of years. We did select a winner for both of these awards in 2016.
Okay.
But we have not presented those awards to the particular individual and group. So traditionally, what we've done is we've had a special meeting, not usually in City Hall, and we present the awards at that time.
Okay.
So that's outstanding there.
You wouldn't happen to have any paperwork from when that happened? This is before my time, and I'm just thinking Plan B in case I can't locate.
I don't know if I have paperwork. I certainly know who the recipients were.
Perfect.
I can give you that.
Well, I'll be in touch, and we can
Right.
get all that information.
The other thing to maybe think about, too, is that there is an additional award that the Cultural Heritage Board gives out. There's awards of excellence.
Oh.
And
Yes.
if you go on to the website, they should all be listed there, but that's something else that we should probably consider doing there.
Yes, you are correct. That was my oversight. I meant to print that out. Any other questions? Yes.
Are these awards yearly? Is it like per calendar year?
Traditionally, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So when would a deadline be for submissions of this?
Well, we kind of make a decision as to when we have them.
Okay.
I can look at the recipients, and we can kind of look at dates if that would help the board kind of come up with maybe some sort of a schedule.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Allen's Award, how often do you give out, is there a deadline or within a year or for the following year or what?
It's typically annually, and there's not an official deadline set, but staff's going to be looking into that to make it a little easier and more streamlined. We can identify some deadlines to make it easier for future awards.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions? No? Okay, moving on. Item 3.3, the PG&E demolition, PUC exemption. I know that this was an issue that the board had inquired about during the nomination over at the city council meeting regarding 535 South Center Street. So that is the former electrical plant? Is that what they called it? Substation. So originally, PG&E had requested a permit from the city to demolish the building, and the city was asking for additional information stating that its historic nature. And we received notification from PG&E that they no longer have to go through city approval, and they cited PUC exemption. Let's see here. I have the number. Oh, General Order 131-D. So essentially, we were told that we do not have jurisdiction over the demolition or any activity with that building, given that it houses electrical service uses, and they have a PUC exemption. However, they have offered to do a mural commemorating and honoring that historic structure, and they will work with the city for possible design. And they have a tentative time frame, but it's not official yet. They're still working things out. But we wanted to bring that to the board's attention to let you know that we were aware that they were doing that. We tried to do our part to prevent a historical structure from being lost. However, we no longer have jurisdiction over that. Any questions? No? Okay. Yes.
When Wes and I were in discussion with David and PG&E about this, and I thought that they had given us a variety of resolutions, more than just a mural. Are those others off the table, or I mean, is it just a mural, David? Or?
My understanding is that they wanted the mural.
Board members, I think it's fair to say and represent that they took those off the table. You're right, there are several options they talked about, including at one point an option to preserve portions of the facade of the building, and they felt that it was in their best interest or operational interest to not do that. So I think from where PG&E sits, if you will, the zoning issue is just that. And when they ended up going through and taking the Public Utility Commission's, and now I'll be more specific, the Public Utilities Commission's General Order 131D, it basically exempts them from everything except for safety issues. So that means the zoning issue for historical review and areas like that will be exempt from the city. They will still have to go through the city for a building permit for demolition purposes, but they don't really have to do any of these other things that could have been discussed in a more of a public forum type of standpoint, because they don't have to do that anymore. So, but definitely it's one thing we can bring back to them and express some of the CHB or the board's interest in pursuing some of those other things, but it will be simply at this point a request of them because they don't need to address any kind of zoning issue because of that general order exemption.
David, were they willing to, I don't know, I'm not sure what the right word is, but of course there's the gas building that's there as well. And it seemed in our discussions earlier on that they would express a willingness to say that we will keep this building and maybe renovate it in some way or do something, or are we just going to see the gas building in another couple of years and say, hey, goodbye to that too? So
the gas plant is different. It does not have the similar state exemption that they can use. So going through that will require a city process, and that's the key point there. But they separated it out so they don't have anything into the city at this point proposed for the gas plant. It's really separately just the electrical substation at this point. And we did invite PG&E here. They indicated that they were preoccupied with another event.
I was under the impression we were aware of the PUC exemption while we were meeting with them, because that was something we discussed at the table, and they were still willing to do some kind of mitigation compensation at that last meeting.
And the options were reduced down to where they feel comfortable with at this point was a mural. And we wanted to bring that forward at least to the board for your understanding of the issue. There is no zoning entitlement or issue for us to basically condition. There's nothing besides a building permit that they need to address from a safety standpoint.
I have a question. Are you done?
Yeah, but I understand that. I'm just saying they were willing, and now they seem to have disappeared, because there was nothing that compulsed them to cooperate previously. That's what I'm saying, because we discussed this at the meeting. So what you're saying is they decided to lose their civic interest and just pull the plug.
I don't know what their civic interest is. I mean, to the extent that this is the option they're proposing before us, which theoretically they don't need to do either. There is nothing, as you just indicated, to compel them to do so, and we cannot, under the exemption, condition them because they don't have to go through any kind of citywide process.
Yeah, no, I understand. I'm just interested why they changed their mind. I'd be interested to know, but if you don't know, it's...
No, I mean, I don't want to speculate, and that's why we invited them here.
It was not indicated in the email where they notified staff. They just made it very clear that they were going to use the exemption. Any other questions or comments? Okay.
I do. I was wondering, my interpreter is kind of a little confused. I'm a little comment. Are you talking about one side, the mural, or are you talking about exemption from what he's referring to? Can you elaborate what?
So PG&E has two plants. On the west side is an electrical substation plant.
Okay.
On the east side is a gas station plant. On the west side, which is the electrical substation, they've decided to use the State of California's Public Utility Commission General Order 131-D exemption, and that exemption allows an exemption from the city zoning process. So they no longer have to go through any kind of city zoning process, which includes historical review. They still have to go through whatever process they need through a Public Utilities Commission, but that's through the Public Utilities Commission and not through the city. What they've offered what they've offered instead to mitigate what they feel are concerns of staff is a mural to represent the historic interests that were there.
So what kind of mural? It could be like all-American city, or it can be all people with disability, it can be all nature of, is that what their intention, or what?
So that's why we brought the issue to the board. If the exemption discussion has been settled by them from their perspective, then what we have to address at this point is what do we want to see in that mural to represent what's going to be, or what was there. I mean, the building's still there right now, but to the extent of what do you want to see as a city that represents the interests of electrical generation for that site. So it's something where it's a mural of the equipment, the workers, the history. That's the conversation we want to have with you.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
And where will this mural go?
So I think it's along the wall.
Yes. There's going to be there's a portion of wall that would be remaining, at which point they would place the mural there.
Oh, right along, maybe along the street there?
That's
or-
my understanding, yes.
But I don't have a plan to show.
They haven't submitted anything formal.
To show you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And we did want to bring this item before you before they came in and got their demolition permit, and that's why.
Any other questions? Okay, I guess we'll move on. The next item on the agenda is election of Cultural Heritage Board officers. So in accordance with Section 16220.040B1, the board shall elect a chairperson and vice chairperson from among its members. The term of office of the chairperson and vice shall be for 12 months, or its balance, should they be elected to fill a vacancy, which is the case for some of the board members. The commission is now asked to make those elections for the next 12 months. The procedural rules state that a motion must be made by a board member to nominate an individual for the position. The motion requires a second, and then a vote of the entire board, including the nominee, would be taken, and those results would be announced.
Who's that?
Dr. Wes Swanson is the past, the most recent chair also.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I would
I'll
like to
second it.
second.
Who do I count? I guess. There's a motion and a second. Can we take a vote?
Oh, wow, we're going to do it this way.
Member Corradi,
Oh.
please signify by saying yes or no.
Yes.
Member Groom,
Yes.
Member Holzer,
Yes.
Member Jaurigue,
Yes.
Member Merlo,
Yes.
Member Nichols,
Yes.
Member Swanson,
I will abstain.
Member Vieux,
Yes.
Member Vigil.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0 with Member Swanson abstaining.
Congratulations. The next item would be the vice chairperson.
Oh, am I chairing now?
You are the, oh, that's right, you can take over.
Oh.
Well, I would like to nominate Bob, so I'm making my own motion.
I'll second.
And can I just say all in favor? Say
Aye.
aye.
For the record, do you want, I thought we had to signify the vote for this.
As long as we announce who voted yes and no, like, for example, noting motion passes 9-0 or 8-3, that would be the only
Okay.
requirement.
Okay, that's fine.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So that's unanimous, or maybe not.
Well, I abstain too, just to be on the safe side.
And for the record, who made the second to that motion?
Vu?
Thank you.
I would like to thank the board, and I appreciate Bob as well being brought in as the chair, as the assistant chair. So, I don't have an agenda.
Do we have a spare?
Meeting schedule.
We don't have a spare. Yeah, hold on. I thought they. I think I wrote all over mine.
Well, I'm just going to make, moving it, it's item 5.2, correct? Motion to approve Culture Heritage Board's meeting. I think we have two option schedules. One is bi-monthly, one is monthly. I think we should have monthly meetings, which we started off several years ago. We can always cancel a meeting. It's much easier than rescheduling. So do we have a motion?
There was a staff report. Did you
Oh, I
want?
read it. I'm sorry. I thought everybody had a copy of it.
Oh, they do typically. I guess it just depends on what the board, do you want staff to talk about the staff report? But if everyone's read it and feels comfortable, I don't need to present if that's not your.
I'm going to say that the staff report cites city code, which says that the Heritage Board has the power to set its own schedule. So I would like someone to make a motion that we meet monthly on the first Wednesday at 5:30. And Bob is making the motion?
I would make that motion. that
Wait a
we-
minute, hold on. I didn't hear that emotion. What did you repeat that, please?
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that the Cultural Heritage Board meets monthly, and it would be the first Wednesday of the month at this location, and I believe at 5:30.
Okay.
And do we have a second?
I'll second it.
He seconded.
I wanted bi-monthly.
Bi-monthly?
Yes.
Um,
I just thought that maybe it wasn't needed every month to meet. I mean, I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Now would be the time for the board to discuss it. There is a motion on the floor.
We have a motion, I guess we can have, we had a motion, we got a second. The time for discussion went by. I guess we could still discuss it, but I would ask for, since we have a motion and a second, I would ask for all in favor to say aye.
Tara.
Aye.
Wait.
Aye.
Chair, I would just recommend if there is going to be a discussion, so either, it doesn't sound like there's a presentation by staff on the item, correct? So if there is going to be a discussion, I would recommend that you announce that. Also, if there's anyone in the public that would want to comment. So both of those, I would open it up for discussion. At least announce that for the public.
I'm not, now you're getting me tripped up parliamentary-wise because,
So first, I would ask if any other members have questions or comments.
Before the vote, I would stand my vote for the second?
Yes, I would recommend if anyone has questions, that you open it up for questions by anyone on.
well, I'm uncertain what the parliamentary motion is, but I guess we can open up for questions then, even though I think this is not right for parliamentary behavior, but.
If I may, at this point, there is a motion on the floor. There is a second, but there is an opportunity for other board members to make friendly amendments to the
Correct.
motion on the floor. And as Tara was saying, this would be the appropriate time to do so.
We can do friendly amendments, I understand that, but that isn't questions. That's additions to the original proposal. So we could do that. That would be more appropriate, parliamentarily wise. But
It's up
it's
to you,
not
Chair.
questions.
It's recommendation, it's up to you.
From a parliamentary point of view, I would just vote. If there's an objection, does anybody if anyone would like to make a friendly amendment, does anybody want to make a friendly amendment?
You know, I just felt like the discussion process is a little rushed. What are the benefits of having bi-monthly versus monthly? I guess that's before, I know that we're past that point. I was just curious.
Is that a question for staff, or I just want to
For staff.
clarify? Okay. So it depends on what items are available to be on the agenda. As is customary with planning commission or other committees or boards, if there's nothing on the agenda, a meeting will be canceled. So you do have your regular schedule, but if there's nothing to present, the meeting won't be held. So if there's a certificate of appropriateness, if there's an award nomination, then it would be agendized.
What is the deadline for the agenda process being finalized?
Depends on the item, but typically about
We're doing a month out.
Yeah, we usually are a month ahead. So we need about a month's notice to be able to get on the next agenda.
Okay.
So,
I have a question. I remember last month regarding the city council, Christine Fergazzi wanted to have a monthly meeting, first Wednesday at 5 monthly meeting. I noted that I went back to the city website and I noted that it's been skipped, and it kind of filtered out and loosened it. And I know to the vote, we could, even though I second it, we could still have the discussion, and then we all can say favor or yes or no, and whoever votes more to want a monthly is fine. If the other one who wants bi-monthly, we could vote on that. That's my suggestion.
yeah, so historically, it was held bi-monthly. During the council meeting, it was discussed, well, I know it hasn't had a meeting in a long time, but the schedule was every other month. The city council had expressed, as a result of comments, to meet monthly. However, the code does very clearly state that the board sets its own schedule. So staff, as just for the sake of thoroughness and due diligence, wanted to offer both schedules for 2019 to allow the board to discuss it, see if that works for your schedule, see if that works for your, just your needs as the board, and we will follow the direction that you give.
In terms of staff investment in the board, is your work on board issues, whether, again, certificates of appropriateness or et cetera, is that on a case-by-case basis as applications come in?
Yes, so there's set time frames that are generally for each item that comes in, and then there's also the preparation of the agenda. So the bigger the agenda, obviously, there's a little bit more prep work because we route it out. We have to have other departments approve and provide comments. We sequence it amongst the city. So it just depends on that specific agenda, but it does, for each item, there's like an standard amount of time. It just depends on which item, but for example, I worked on this agenda for about 4 hours last week on Thursday to make sure everything was put together and ready for today. And we have publication deadlines and noticing deadlines as well.
So do you want me to remove my second, or what?
All right, do we have any more questions? Then I'm back to calling for a vote. And the proposal is to schedule monthly meetings. I have to say that, Bob's been on the board for a long time. The board met monthly for 20 years, something like that.
Okay.
And that was the normal procedure. We managed to have, the thing about having scheduled meetings, if you have meeting schedules, you tend to have business appear. If you cancel meetings and have long droughts, the whole process stops, which is what has happened, which we want to stop. So it's a lot easier to schedule meetings and cancel than it is to have a very open schedule and not get business done.
And I think I'm not sure what the notice requirements were. I thought it was like about 1 week before or something. I mean, I think it'd be difficult to make a agenda item a month before.
Noticing are typically 10 days for most items.
Okay.
And then depending on the item, if there's certain newspaper notices, then there's deadlines for the newspaper for their publication needs.
Right.
And then for Brown Act, it's the 3 days prior for agenda release before the meeting.
Right.
Is the agenda just posted on the website and on the bulletin board, or is it otherwise posted?
The website, the bulletin board, and then it's sent out to anybody, well, the board and anybody who's requested to be notified. So applicants would be notified, the board, and then sometimes there's interested parties that want to get a copy of it, and it gets sent to them as well.
But that's not the same as, that isn't a Brown Act requirement. That's a courtesy.
No, the Brown Act is the posting on the board.
Right, the Brown Act is 72 hours.
And that's the 3 days that I mentioned, yes.
So, if there's no more questions, then I will ask for all in favor of meeting on the Wednesday, 5:30.
How should we designate?
Designate?
All shout out or raise
All in
hand?
favor, say aye.
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 And opposed? The record shall show. All right. Moving on. Consideration of a certificate of appropriateness. I assume we're going to have a presentation.
You assume correctly. Thank you, Chair. Good evening, board members. Kevin Collin, I'm the planning manager. You'll be seeing me and my staff here presenting similar projects like tonight, certificates of appropriateness. I'll walk you through an orientation of the project site, the project description, and a brief summary of our analysis, and then conclude with our recommendation. The property that we're looking at this evening is located what some of us today in the planning department would call the University Park Master Development Plan area. It's about 102 acres that has a long history, most historically noted for being the first public hospital for the treatment of mentally ill in California, which leads us to a short explanation as to why this project is before you this evening. The University Park Master Development Plan was adopted in 2003 as a part of that adoption process of creating new development regulations for the, one might say, the adaptive reuse or redevelopment of this property. There was an environmental impact report prepared. Plan was adopted with standards, but the EIR had an analysis which identified historic quality to the property, namely being the first public institution treating mentally ill in California. That history in the associated buildings and use of the property indicated eligibility as a state and a national historic property or landmark, and the qualifier in that is a potential historic district when you're thinking about our context this evening, in that there is not a historic landmark on this specific building site. There is not a district present, but there is a potential for one, and the environmental impact report that was certified prescribed a mitigation measure to ensure that the historic nature of the property as a whole and specific sites were appropriately reviewed, and this board is one of those review steps in terms of reviewing alterations. This item comes before you with a recommendation of approval from the City's Site Plan Review Committee and the Architecture Review Committee, and that is not for historic reasons, that's for other standards that are in the code, just so we're clear on that. What we're looking at this evening is a certificate of appropriateness for the area in red there. I've highlighted the structure we're looking at. It's called the Spruce Building. It's vacant. It's been vacant for a while. The plan that you see on display is the master development plan. So in 2003, what was the vision for how the rules might result in redevelopment of this site? This is what you're seeing are some existing buildings, some new buildings, lots of parking lots. If you've been out there, it may look similar or slightly different. It's been evolving since 2003 and continues to this day. You'll see some new buildings go up in the near future, I gather, from our building permit applications. To get us down a little bit closer to the ground and oriented, this is an aerial view. Harding's on the left, California. We're turned north is to the left. What I've highlighted in number here are a few on-the-ground shots looking at the Spruce Building on the top right-hand corner. You'll see it there. 2 stories. In preparation of the master development plan, there was a historic resource survey prepared in 1999, which we've included a summary of the survey sheet, the Department of Public, the DPR form that notes the characteristics of the property, mainly its architectural components, which essentially you see carried forward to this day. Very little, if any, alterations have occurred to this structure. Looking across the street on both next door, you see at number 4 and 5 2 other adjacent buildings, similar architectural theme that you'll see: stucco exterior, tile roofs, steeply pitched roofs, hipped as well as gabled. The Spruce Building is distinguished from other buildings in the master development plan and in its contributor status. Those that are not of historic significance, it's distinguished from those. And it's also, when you think in terms of local landmarks, as a contributor to a district, it's distinguished on its eligibility criteria. So it's a subtle distinction in that it's not a historic resource for architectural merit alone. It's a historic resource for its ability to interpret history in a broader narrative. So it's the hospital and the campus that the contributor status is attempting to designate. And I just add that to help you understand a filter or a perspective on how to evaluate the merits of the specific application. I'll get to the standards in a moment here. In looking at the project that's before you, it has a few components that concern the exterior, proposed parking lot. Sorry, the slide's not great. The brightness is a little too bright. There's a parking lot proposed on the right. There are new pathways that connect the parking lot to the existing building, pathway network that's extended to either end of the building, as well as a new patio out the rear of the building that overlooks a lake. It is really bright behind.
I don't know why it's like that. This
Colored elevation showing the Spruce Building. In terms of the rehabilitation activities that are proposed, new colors is one, repairing the tile roofs is another. I think the next slide will have some color additions, which, sorry, the light's glaring it out. It's maybe hard to see. The existing buildings, or the existing window openings, all remain. The windows, however,
Flip the light over there, I think that'll work. About that one. Yeah.
Oh, that's perfect.
So this shows the proposed finished state of the building. The building would be repainted, tiles repaired. There are a few alterations that are highlighted in this slide. The dark green areas, there's 4, 3 at the top and 1 at the bottom, are where the building, the window sill is taken to the ground and doors are added. All the windows are replaced with a new metal sash, grid windows, and there are 2 awnings that are added to the building. Here's, in case we have questions, just a floor plan of the project. In terms of a discussion of our analysis, the staff report focuses on the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation. I don't want to go through each of these. If you have a question of one in particular, I'd be happy to respond. But I wanted to focus on standard number 5, and that is the standard that speaks toward the retention of distinctive features, finishes, and construction techniques of historic resources. And you look at the spruce building as it was documented in 1999 as unaltered in its architectural form, in terms of its massing, its roof line, the materials, the very subtle ornamentation on the gable ends, the grid pattern of the windows. All the primary distinctive architectural components of the building are retained. The window replacement is carrying forward the grid pattern in a contemporary fashion through new metal sash windows, which would not have been present at the period of significance that this building existed and was constructed. But nonetheless, staff's finding that minimal alteration retains consistency with this particular standard. And with that, I will conclude that staff recommends that the board recommend issuance of a certificate of appropriateness. As the director mentioned, this particular decision would be decided by him, and that would be the final action for this project to move forward. Lastly, I would just say the applicant is present as well and may have a few words to say, Chair. That's it.
And does the applicant wish to speak?
Thank you, Kevin. My name is Dan Kaiser. I'm a Senior Vice President of Groupie Commercial Company. The staff report didn't explain what Groupie Commercial's role is, and so I thought I'd just briefly go over that for the board's sake, since most of you are new to this project, other than Robert, because I remember Robert's actually been doing his job a lot longer than I have. Groupie Commercial was hired as the master developer of this project back in 2002. We actually did some interim management while we were going through the entitlement process with the city. And so we've been redeveloping this for 15 plus years now. Most of our efforts have been, for the first 5 years, were to create the project to be in a developable state, upgrading infrastructure, having a sense of arrival. Groupie projects are always those types of projects where you know when you've arrived and you know when you left. And we knew that we had to create this before we could even start leasing space. And our role was to follow the guidelines per the CEQA documents, but also we have agreements with the Chancellor's Office and a JPA that we report to, where it's our obligation to redevelop this and make it an economic stimulus for the Midtown area. And so that's what we've been busily doing for the last 15 years. And for some time now, our corporate office with Groupie Commercial has been over in Brookside, within the Groupie building. And we really haven't been in a position to move on site, and we're finally in that position to do that. And so we decided to choose one of the historic buildings to renovate and invest in instead of building a new building. What we found over the years is tenants that we're trying to build space for or renovate space for, it's hard for them to really understand what a historic building can look like. And so what we thought is we would renovate this building for our own office use, but it would also give us the ability to use it as a show space and a show place for potential tenants. So over the years, we've done some minor remodels to some of the buildings out at the site. Some of them, most of them are not historic. The ones that are historic, it was just window dressing, paint, carpet, things like that. But those buildings are also used by staff members that are working on the project or the college or so forth, so they're not actually generating revenue. The other buildings that we've renovated that are functionally reusable, and they're not historic, we've put money into them, we've remodeled them, and there's been about 9 or 10 of them that we've actually done. Most of our efforts have been on new buildings. We've built 6 new buildings. We've got 1 in the works. To date, we've got about 370,000 square feet of space that we've done, but we have 10 more historic buildings that we need to remodel, and they're in rough shape, and we see the vision for them, but there has to be some adaptable abilities to reuse them from a functional point of view. So what we picked this building for our office. The size fits for us for our needs. It's real close to the cluster of where a lot of the new development is happening. So it'll be a good showplace when we start showing it to other tenants. And for the most part, it's functionally reusable. The reason that Tom Bowe and WMB designed it the way that they designed it with some minor modifications is in traditional office settings, you really want an entrance to be more in the middle of the project. Right now, the entrances are on each side of the building, and they go through poured-in-place concrete stairwells that don't function well. So that's why we're asking for an exception on this one condition. Over the years, we've been very sensitive to the historic significance of this project. We did a lot of research on what this project used to be like when it was the insane asylum and the developmental center. We've implemented a lot of those standards within our master development plan when it comes to fencing and masses and styles of buildings and so forth. And we've been recognized for that. We've received 13 awards since we've been working on this, several of which have came from the Culture Heritage Board for the work that we've done on the mansion, work that we've done on new buildings, just site improvements. With the lakes that we've built a lake, and we've done other site amenities that have tied into and brought a lot of community awareness and culture to the project. So anyways, I think I just wanted to kind of give the board a background on what our role is, what has been and continues to be, and why we're excited about remodeling this building, not only for our needs, but so it will help us to try to restore some of the other historic buildings on site.
I have a question. Oh,
Go ahead. Question.
Are the window panels or any solar or eco-friendly? I'm just curious.
I'll let Tom's our architect that's kind of doing that. He can respond to that. Tom, yep.
I thought it might help reduce expense and probably bring a little revenue. I don't know. It's just a thought.
I'm not real clear on your question. So what we are doing on the windows, it probably wasn't clear in the presentation, is that those existing windows are steel sash, but they're unable to be modified to be conformance with energy requirements. So we're going back with steel sash to replicate what is there, but allows us to install thicker, energy-efficient glazing in them. So that's the difference. I think if you hear metal windows, you're thinking something aluminum, but basically it's the same type. The steel sash is there now. It's just they will be energy-efficient windows. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Great.
I have a question. Yeah, as far as when you mentioned you did minimum modification, what do you mean by that? Because I know that Victorian, when you modification, are they up to code for compliant? Are they up to double painted? Things like that. What do you mean by that?
So the buildings that were not that did not have any historic significance. Those buildings, if we did a major remodel, we went through the city process, got a permit, et cetera. Most of the buildings that were existing buildings didn't require permits because we were just doing carpet, paint, little things like that. So those are the minor changes that we made.
So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. The one building that we did come before the board, I think it was back in 2006 or 7, we were going to restore the old superintendent's residence, which is, we call it the mansion now. Okay. And what we did to begin with is it was deteriorating. And so we basically protected the outside. We spent $450,000 replacing elements on the outside and protecting the outside. And then we went through another fundraising effort to come up with more money to remodel the inside, and that's when we came before the board for a certificate of appropriateness, which the board granted, but we didn't have enough money to do it, and there was a change in hands with the college, and since then we haven't raised the funds to be able to finish the inside.
Okay, now my last question is that, is this particular project is going to be part of the business aspect for the public? For like museum, or are they going to be like what it's going to be used for?
It's going to be our office. So this particular spruce building will be our corporate office.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Bob?
Just a couple of things. First of all, just for staffs, there is a historic district there. Doctors Row is right there as part of University Park. So there is a historic district on the premises of University Park.
And there's a landmark.
And I believe the
mansion's
superintendent's
a landmark.
mansion is a landmark as well. That's also on University Park. So just to let you know about that.
No, I was aware of that. Thank you for distinguishing it, and
Okay.
I appreciate it.
And
Misspoke.
I've dealt with Dan a number of times, and Tom, oh my God, so many times. I just will say that they do excellent work. We've given various projects on University Park. We've put them in for awards of excellence. They just do quality work. So, and I'm in favor of this. It looks fine, and I'm glad to see that that Groupie will be moving their offices. I think that's a real plus.
Yeah, it is. Thanks.
I'm hoping that at some point you'll also get the money to redo finish the inside of the superintendent's mansion too.
Bob, we're actually working on that now, and unfortunately, we wish we'd have done it back then because the cost of construction has just skyrocketed. It's twice as much as it was before, but the board that we report to is actually showing more interest in renovating that first floor now. So there might be additional funds that can be generated to finish that. So. And
then any thoughts about some of the other, there's some really attractive Victorian buildings in Dr. Row too. Any thoughts of renovation on them?
Yeah, it's just, it's one step at a time. I think there's, we have some staff that live in a couple of them right now, right, that work on the project. Our vision is someday down the road, they'll probably become, could be permanent residences or could become professional offices for somebody. But I don't know that we're going to be able to do that until we probably finish the mansion and then renovate some of these other buildings.
Great. Thanks, Dan.
I have some comments. I went down and looked at the building today, and in relation to the standards about altering the building so that it becomes a kind of changes its time, place, and use. That is to say, the experience of the building as a historical statement or record is really altered by these changes. For example, the building as it sits now, the entrance is on the south side, and there's an exit on the north side. I believe it was a library. All the buildings in the original area, none of them have awnings of a similar nature or style. I think that they're strange architecture. It's a kind of what would you call that, Tudor Spanish or something. I mean, it's unusual, but all of the openings either have an alcove or they have a kind of a porch. That building has more of an alcove style on the south side. We generally, with windows, like windows, the board historically has approved of window changes provided the windows look the same, and I think the windows on that building all are in even squares. I guess they're trying to have a Tudor window 16th century look or something like that, but I think the windows you're proposing are rectangular. They're not at all the same kind of a pattern. The other thing is the presentation of the building, the way it's being changed. It seems to me the real entrance of this building, looking at the parking lot alignment, is from the east side, because you've taken out 3 of the windows and put in 3 doors. And the walking area is a person walks up to the building, goes inside, they would never see the entrance, and they would walk in what's now on the lawn. And on the far side, I guess it's for walking out to the lake or something. What I'm seeing in this is, if I saw this building set with all the other original buildings, I would think that the original entrance was on the east side, and I could tell that the awnings weren't original, which is desirable in the sense that they don't have a false historicism, except that they look like open garage doors or something, and I don't quite understand how that's supposed to be compatible with a Tudor Spanish building. So I think converting windows into doors, particularly when you're adding, I'm not sure how many windows on the building now, but there's maybe 5 on each side, is that right? So now 4 of the 10 windows are now full-length doors. The only buildings in that area that have floor-to-ceiling glass are all the similar architectural style new buildings that are done in kind of a faux Tudor Spanish style out by the entrance to the facility. And if I saw this building renovated with these changes, I would think it's one of those buildings. I wouldn't see a historic building at all. So are the doors, what's the purpose of all the doors?
Well, it's a new entrance to the building.
I'm sorry?
The new doors that we're adding,
Why are there all these doors added?
well, we're adding the doors to the middle of the building so it's functionally usable. You can't have an entrance to a modern office coming through a concrete stairwell. It just doesn't function. And there's no way to tear out those stairwells. So we're positioning it so even though the parking lot might be on the south side of the building where the old entrance was, it's not that far to come around and come into the front of the building, which will come off of Grant Street. And that's the visible area where our customers will be driving down the road and seeing where the entrance to the building is. And it helps make the building more functional.
You know, the idea with the Secretary of the Interior standards is to make, it isn't that you can't make changes, but the changes need to be recognizable by a non-expert as a change. And that's the problem I'm seeing with this, is that the awnings, I mean, I guess they're not original, clearly. But the windows converted into doors is potentially very misleading. It would look like they'd always been there, and again, it looks like the new buildings, like I forget the name of the medical service out in front, but all those new buildings have that kind of a door frame on it. It seems like there should be some way to put, if you need to add doors to it in such a way that the doors would appear added, and that they are alterations, not original. That's what I think. So, I mean, and the awnings are needed because they're only putting on 2 of the 4 doors. Are those an ornament, or is that a practical necessity?
Ornament. Weather, yeah. It's practical and ornamental as well.
But then why is it only on 2 of the 4 doors?
Tom, you want to answer that? Chris? Yeah, come on.
Basically, they're on the main entrance door to the front, and on the rear, it's the main entrance door out to the patio, the proposed new patio that's on the lake side.
That's beautiful.
And the other ones, yeah.
It's for protection for entrance and exits.
But then are the other doors being used?
They'll be
If
used
they're not awnings on them, why are they there?
The existing doors?
You've added 3 doors on this.
No, those aren't. Are those?
It's basically main entrance to the front, main entrance to the rear. The other ones are just service doors because it goes into a kitchen area, kind of. So that's why we didn't add canopies to those. It indicates where the entry point is. And the reason they are very plain is so they are distinct and know that they were done in 2018 or 19 and not the original building.
I have a question. Is this more, what you're saying that this particular presentation is not the same that appeared outside of the structure? Is it more like cosmetic? That I'm trying to understand the chair. Is that what they're implying?
No, this isn't cosmetic. We're actually removing sections of the building, concrete sections of the building, in order to put those doors in.
Okay.
Yeah.
I say it's good to have fire exits, in my opinion. I don't know.
It's not an anti-exit issue. It's maintaining the historicism of not having false historicism. The idea with the building is it's supposed to be able to, a non-expert could view the building and say, oh, they've added those doors, and not to confuse it. If you do that, you remove the historical quality of it. So if you put in, like these awnings are clearly not original, so a person could look at those and go, look at the awnings that aren't original. but the door frames and the orientation of the building, because if you experienced that building when it was built, you would enter from the south side. And there's actually a very elaborate entrance on that side, which now is not being part of the presentation of the building. It's like taking that building and turning it. And that's an alteration of its, giving it a false historicism. I'm not saying it isn't practical and attractive. I'm saying it's changing the historic. If we aren't concerned with the historic nature of the building, these are all fine changes. But if we are, I think it's obscuring the building's history. And I don't think that that's an insurmountable thing. It's just that if this is what we're supposed to be doing, that's my reaction to the design.
Yeah, I know that when we met with SHPO representatives and back in the days when we were putting these together, I think the concept was there had to be some flexibility for these buildings to be renovated and adaptively reused when you have a mixed-use project where you're emphasizing education and commercial uses. A building like this was used in a mental hospital setting, so you have to be able to convert and make some changes to it for it to be functionally usable. And if not, they're just going to sit there as window sets.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I'm saying, though, like I said, if that building is rehabilitated, it's going to look like one of the ones just at the other side of the facility. It'll match the new ones more so than it'll match its brethren old buildings around it. And I think there should be some way to make a distinction so that you can make the changes you need, but also when people look at the building, they're not going to say, oh, they put a new one here when they put in the ones by the entrance. You know the buildings I'm referring to.
Oh, yeah, we built them.
Right. Well, that's what it looks like. It's one of those now, not one of the buildings that is surrounding it.
What is the mechanism through which these doors work? What type of hinges do they have? Is the actual construction mechanism something that is from the past 20 years in terms of like how the door actually opens? What is the mechanical function?
I think the issue of false historicism, if you look at what was the door that is on the south side, it is a paneled metal door.
Yeah.
So false historicism, if we took that door and replicated it here. The idea of using a glazed door is that you know it's contemporary. So we're not doing false historicism by using a glazed entry, because if you looked at what the existing doors, you know they're distinctly different.
That's what I'm getting at. Thank you.
That's a good question.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Well, anyway, no other comments or questions. So I guess we vote on the approval of the certificate of appropriateness.
Chair, if I may ask if there's any public comment?
Oh, public comments? We have a public comment coming up.
No, I mean on this agenda item,
Okay,
if there's any person present
okay,
wishing to speak.
All right. Because we normally would have a card saying we're going to have people speaking to the items.
Yeah, we can do the card thing, so my only question is, you're changing the entryway as well, you're changing parking in other areas, so we're also changing the accessibility for ADA. So if you're talking about coming around in the rain, especially when we're coming in the rainy season, instead of coming in to where the accessible parking might be, you're having to come in all the way around the corner to enter a building. So when you change the entryway to a building, you're also changing the accessibility of the building for ADA as well, for a person with disability. So that's a tremendous issue as well from our standpoint. Being as I chair the Mayor's Task Force on Persons with Disabilities and chair the Planning Commission.
I'd like to comment on that.
You can still make a
I'd like to say something. That's what I was, the comment was talking about, if it's up to code, if it's up to compliant. If this is going to be changed, then the surrounding have to involve with the city, with the new accommodation. You know what I mean? So and that was my concern about that. The preserve of the building, I'm full support, but as far as the accessibility around the facility needs to be compliant also.
If I may speak to that,
Yeah, go ahead.
as part of the permitting process through the building department, all of that is checked and made sure to be compliant with laws and standards.
Yeah, we plan on replacing all the sidewalks leading from the new parking lot to the building and the existing entrances. So everything will be ADA compliant.
Okay.
So we have any other comments?
I believe we received a card.
That's for public comment.
Oh, okay, that's,
Okay.
so I guess we can, since we might have some, we can have a roll call vote on this?
We'll motion first.
What, Chair, before I forget, is that, based on what they say after, are they gonna make, is they gonna already condition it as we approve it? If they can all gonna be appliant or not? That's my understanding.
You mean ADA compliant?
Yeah, that's what she was saying.
That's the law.
Yeah, that's not some part of our certificate anyway.
No.
so-
Not, okay.
Yeah, that's Title.
That's assumed.
It's Title 15 of the Municipal Code is the building code compliance. So if I may suggest, if a motion were offered, there is a draft resolution in your staff report for your consideration. It would be a motion to adopt that resolution, which, as recommended by staff, is an approval recommendation.
Oh, there we go, yeah.
Okay.
So that would be what the motion is about.
Do I have a motion to approve the staff recommendation? A motion to do so?
I second it.
Oh, no, I'm asking for a motion. So
Oh,
you can-
motion,
you can
sorry.
either- You can make the motion.
Okay, I'll move the motion to approve it.
Okay, well, no, it's to vote. We're going to, and we'll vote by yes. So we'll-
Okay.
And we have a second?
I have a second, I'll second that.
And I would like to ask for a roll call vote, if that's okay. I don't think it makes any difference.
It's up to you.
Member Corradi,
Yes.
Member Groom,
Yes.
Member Holzer,
Yes.
Member Jaurigue,
Yes.
Member Merlo,
Yes.
Member Nichols,
Yes.
Chair Swanson,
I will vote no.
Member Vieux,
I abstain.
Member Vigil,
With Dane.
Clearly passes, but I have to be the cranky old man, so.
motion passes 6-0 to 1.
Anyway, we do have a citizens' comments card. Is it Bill Maxwell?
Here you go.
Yes, it is. Very illustrious individual.
Mr. Maxwell, please approach the podium.
Oh, please introduce yourself, too.
Hi, my name is Bill Maxwell. Those of you that don't know me, I'm the archivist for the Bank of Stockton, and I manage 40,000 historic photographs that belong to the bank. So any of you that are looking for old photos, come and see me. I've been in town since 1975, and I'm happy to see a newly seated and revitalized Cultural Heritage Board after too long a hiatus. And so since now all of you folks are back once again in action and looking at meeting monthly, I have applications for merits of structure. I've got 3. I plan on submitting a number more. I would like to go on the record just that I'm turning these over to the appropriate folks now. These are for the Dawson Storage Building at 22 East Weber Avenue, the Pike Furniture Building at 230 North California Street, and the Kendall Building at 430 East Weber Avenue. And for your consideration.
Looks like we have agenda items for the next meeting.
Yes, now you have agenda items for next month. Anyway, thank you for your indulgence, and I think you'll probably be seeing more of me.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Maxwell.
Please, Mr. Maxwell was my father. I'm just Bill.
Yeah, we're pretending we don't know you. Now's the time. We have any comments from the board?
For the new members of the board, can we have introductions so that we all know each other?
Dale, introduce yourself.
Bill Nichols. I would like to say that the City of Stockton staff that organized this initial meeting did a quality job. I really appreciate seeing the work that went into it. We haven't always started our cultural heritage board meetings with this much on the front end. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
kudos to the staff.
I'm Anthony Corradi. I don't know what else you would like to know about me. Are you conducting this?
I'm not conducting
just
anything. I just want to know everybody's names
A
and what people do.
request for everybody to say something.
And what you do.
Oh, what I
Yeah,
do?
what do you
I'm a technical program manager for Tesla. But I previously worked at an architecture firm in the Bay Area called Radcliffe that did large-scale projects, but they were a historic firm from 1906.
Thomas Groom. I work for Lincoln Unified School District in the Information Technology Department.
Robert Holzer, I'm retired. I've been on this board for 28 years.
My name is Lourdes Jaurigue. I'm new. I'm a paralegal, and I'm an alumni from University of the Pacific.
And I am Phillip Merlo, and I am the Director of Education at the San Joaquin County Historical Museum.
I'm Melanie Vieux. I'm an architect with WMB Architects.
I'm Wes Swanson. I teach history at Delta College, and I've been on the board for not as long as Bob. So.
My name is Doug Vigil, and I work for property management and sales. And also I'm a radio producer. So you're more than welcome to come to my radio show and talk about history, talk about architect. I try as much as I can to get more information to the public and on KXV Voice of Stockton. So so you're more than welcome. So.
Any other comments from any board member? Oh, Bob again?
Bob
No,
again.
no.
Thanks a lot, Wes. I just wanted to see if we were going to do what we've done always in the past at the Cultural Heritage Board, and that is we've always had committees. Like we had an awards committee, we had an alterations review committee, a whole bunch of committees. There's probably about half a dozen or so committees that we've had.
Okay.
What we've done in the past is when we selected a chair, as we obviously did tonight, then the chair sent out an email to all the board members saying, these are the committees, and please let me know which ones you're interested in.
Okay. Our next meeting, we are planning to adopt bylaws, so we can add another item where, we can assign committees. If you want to do some discussion, well, I don't know how that would work with a serial meeting.
With Brown Act considerations, you don't want a
Probably
forum
wouldn't.
discussing business that's not a notice meeting to the public. So emails would be included in that, so.
We can put it as a staff report where we identify the committees and a discussion can be had at the next meeting where, is anybody like to be on this one? Anybody like to be on this one? And they just get assigned. That can be done. If
And
that's-
then they also select the chair of each committee, too.
Sure, that can be part of it. Okay. And not,
We can talk about staffing resources for committees.
yes, we'll have to talk about like staffing resources and limitations on that as well. But yes, that'll be at the next meeting. And addition, looks like we have some other things we need to look at.
Now, do you have, I'm confused now, because we didn't do this in a Brown Act violating way because it wasn't a serial meeting.
Well, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tara, that if an email gets forwarded on, it can technically count because it's more than 3?
If there's a quorum,
Or-
so whatever.
Right, but we've never done that.
So I know that it was just mentioned that that was done in the past, unless I'm misunderstanding.
Because if you email the whole group, that's technically,
It could be a Brown
considered a
Act
meeting,
violation.
yeah.
Yeah, but if one email to a person saying, here's the things you can do, what do you want to do, and they return, that isn't a circular meeting.
To be on the safe side, I recommend communicating with the chair or the vice chair with staff.
It may be better also for public record that the discussion be held.
We can do it that way. I can do it through you.
Yeah, we're just trying to make it as transparent as possible, and that way the public can be involved. We're all here to make Stockton better and let people have input, so.
You have a question?
Yes. I know, I'm new at this. I was already previous in the Civil Service Commissioner, and they usually hand me a book so I can look through, but I didn't get any. Do I have to print my own agenda like this? Because I had to use this as an information guide, but as far as other things, do we need to have this printout?
If that's something the board would like me to have ready for you and sitting on the dais for the meeting, I can have that arranged. They were sent out electronically. I think every board and commission kind of does things a little different. Some bring their own, some have it on a tablet. If you'd like to have a paper packet, I can have it waiting for you here for the next meeting.
Okay,
Unless
great.
you want me to mail it, but that might delay your receipt. Would you rather it just be here?
Yeah, please.
Okay, is that a law across the board? Everybody would like one to refer to, or I just want to make sure I give you what you need.
If I'm not mistaken, we would always need to have some packets available, because if anybody in the audience requests one, they have to be given a copy.
Yeah, I had like one spare, but I think I gave that for.
If we had 2 requests, we would have had to stop the meeting. So we need a few of them, and so basically, and we very rarely have that many visitors, but like 5 or something would probably suffice.
Okay, no problem. In addition to the 5 just to have, does anyone else want one here, or just have 5 in case somebody wants to look at it, because we do have 9 members, in case everybody wanted one. You'd like one? Okay.
And now I have a question. Where are bylaws coming from?
So based on my discussion with the city attorney's office, they recommended that the board adopt bylaws similar to what Planning Commission has. So, and that will just govern, I believe, the board's actions and processes. So that'll be brought for your consideration at the next meeting.
Okay.
It's more technical homework kind of stuff.
Well, I do a lot of policies for the college, so I'm interested in bylaws.
Yeah. Well, we just, we really want to formalize the board. We respect what you're doing and what your dedication and your time for this important matter. And we want to be able to give you all the tools that you need and all the structure necessary to be successful.
If you want to formalize, one thing we would probably like to do is, I don't know how long it's been, 6 years? One of the things the board's supposed to do is make recommendations to the city regarding the borders and review of historical districts. We did that 3 planning directors ago, I think, and we never got a response.
Oh, okay.
So every planning director has received a new version of the old report that we then never get back.
Okay.
So I can send that to you.
That'd be great.
And we can start over again, because we have many things in there which are remarkably antiquated, but many things which are still pertinent as to the management of the historic districts that we have, things that have not been done and neglected, particularly with enforcing rules and codes.
Okay.
So if we're going to get formal, that would be nice.
Well, it's my job to serve, so.
Yes, I'm just saying, so that would be something we could do.
Sounds good.
And I
look
have
forward
it,
to
so we can still review it and send it back.
And to that note, I am new to the city of Stockton, so I've been in this field for over 12 years, but any historical reference, hey, this is what we did 10 years ago, or I would be happy to look at. Please feel free to forward any references or any notations of things. I am appreciative of that, because that gives me a better perspective of what's been done, what should be done, and what works for Stockton.
One of the things, too, was that traditionally, when there were new members on the board, there was a fairly large binder that was given to each of the new board members. I don't know, Wes, if you still have one, or Dale, do you have one? But it really went into a lot of detail about the board.
Yeah, actually, we used to call it the book, and it is online, but it's nice to have on paper. And the one, I'm not sure, this is the 2000 report, right, Bob? I know which one you mean. It was done in 2000.
Well, I'm not talking about that. That was all the structures.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about things that were particular to the board. They would discuss the various awards and that type of thing.
Kind of like a new board member orientation.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
exactly what it was there. I don't. Do you have one still, Wes?
I think because we had two, we had the book and we had that, and I think there might even have been a third one that was an index, I'm not sure.
Right, I don't know what you have from that, you
What,
know?
what they're referring to is actually available at the Stockton Public Library in Cesar Chavez.
Thank you.
Yes. I don't know why it's there, but there is.
I will borrow it.
Yes. So, I have to return it first, but.
Oh, okay, so that's good.
But yes.
Let me know when you do that.
I will.
Yes, Bob.
One other thing, too, is that when we're looking at topics for the next meeting, I'm assuming in December, I would also like to have on the agenda about the historic plaques. We didn't have money in the past to put in plaques on new properties that we had identified as landmark properties, and there's some that have been removed, and maybe we have some funds available. That would be the question to do them. Back when they cost about $350 or something. They were a cast aluminum.
Do you want this to be an informational item just so that we can kind of get up to speed and see what our options are? I don't know if I'd be able to get all the financial data necessary from ASD and for the production of new plaques by next month, because sometimes that takes a little longer. I'm dependent on other departments for their technical data.
Right. Well, I guess, do we have any funds available for us? That would be the question.
I'd have to look into that as well. So I can make it an informational item where we can talk about maybe some desires, some needs, see if, what concerns there are, and then come back at a later date with some sort of a motion or action. If that is acceptable.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, the city didn't actually make the plaque. There was an outside company that made it back east. I don't unfortunately know the name of the company.
At my former agency, I actually wrote the ordinance for the historic plaque program, and we had a vendor, and I worked on some of that, so I'm familiar.
Oh, okay, super.
Chair, since we're talking about future agendas, may I?
Yes.
I said in my title as planning manager. If you're not, there are many planning managers, so I thought it'd be important to mention my function is to supervise the planning staff that are processing development applications, including certificate of appropriateness of submittals, including building permit submittals. We have, I think, 4 certificate of appropriateness applications that are pending. So just if you're kind of in your head trying to organize what am I going to be doing in the near future, those have come in more recently, and so they will be appearing, perhaps not all on the next agenda, but you'll have some more like we did this evening in the near future.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any more comments or questions?
Yes, it may be a stupid question, but I would like to know what did the certificate of appropriateness do as far as you're asking? I'm new. I'm saying what is the appropriation certificate? What did that require? And what does that mean?
What is a certificate?
For those who might not know, and I kind of,
What is a certificate of appropriateness?
To know, like,
Yes.
the procedure, the process for,
yeah.
just since it's not agendized in particular, but keep it general.
Yeah, thank you. Is a discretionary action of the director upon recommendation of this board. There are findings that are codified in Title 16, which is our development code, which we can get you that information. Sounds like it'd be in your orientation manual. Findings that are made to approve alterations of historic properties, buildings. And so if you're looking at how that manifests in terms of an action, you could look at the staff report for the item we talked about earlier this evening.
I see. Thank you.
It's strictly exterior modifications, too. We have nothing to say about the interior of a property.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions? If not, then I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
We have a second?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you.
All opposed?
We're already adjourned. Doesn't work.
Chair, I have a question. Do you give training if I ask you any questions?
You too. didn't understand why,
Is it safe to put sign
Can I know?
documents here?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I didn't go. Did you go?
No, I didn't go, but Doug did. And,
I'm new because last time I was
right, yeah,
they put me in.
Right.
Yeah.
excuse me.
But it was a
Yeah, they shared it in front of a friend and I
or things like that. Little thing that I can
There was another person.
I studied history and then geography.
good. That's what I need. Just give me something on it. Or,
No, your dad was still calling too.
thank you. Same here. Like, well, you did a good job. Thank you.
I think you took the right test.
Well, that's what he always says. My best friend actually.
I have buckets of anger, I'm sorry. I've been in Stockton too long.
No, and I really want to do that. Anyways, I'm sorry for asking. If there's ever something like outdoors,
That is not a dumb question. No, you did.
I thought there was someone that got one.